At school, I sit alone at lunch. I don't like no one sits next to me at lunch. Uh, like, no matter how hard of a day I have at school, like no matter how bad it is, it may suck, it may be terrible, but I always just come home. I go to the gym and I train because I know I want to become better, and this is what I'm trying to do. I don't care what happens at school as long as I'm doing what I want to do, and as long as I keep moving forward and I'm not going backwards, then I'm doing the right thing. Something that I ask all my guests of this show is for people like me who aren't the most popular kid in school and want to do great things in this world. In school, I'm not popular at all. I have many outlets for that, though. I train, I do jiu-jitsu, I wrestle, and I read comic books, and I do this YouTube channel. But I think that all these people want to hear from you, someone who made it in their career doing something they love. So my question to you is, what advice do you have for people that are stuck in life right now but want to do great things?
Oh man, this is such a central theme of a I don't know, I don't want to call it a campaign me and my wife are doing. This is so crazy that you said that. We have a slogan. I have a kind of a slogan that I've developed or established is tomorrow will be better. And it's actually based on a mental health campaign that we're working on. But it's the same, kind of really runs along the same lines that you're talking about. Look, I wasn't a popular kid in school either, especially grade school. Grade school, I couldn't find out. I didn't know who I was. I felt out of place. I was the only colored kid in my school. Everybody was white. I felt weird. I felt out of place. And then in grade school, you know, I ran with a nice clique and we had fun. I had really good friends, but they weren't like the popular guys. They were like kind of the second tier, I guess. So, but yeah, it's funny, man, because it's like I said about going to school with like not the best clothes or not the best shoes. Tomorrow will be better. It's like, it doesn't matter. Like I almost think like the people that have it the hardest growing up are the people that end up the best. Like if I met you in 10 years and you were like doing amazing things, I would not be shocked, because it's like we not being the most popular people makes you, like you said, find other things, the podcast, the wrestling, the jiu-jitsu, the powerlifting, and it makes you more of a well-rounded person. And I think it also teaches you work ethic and teaches you how to deal with things. It teaches you how to deal with adversity, you know, teaches you how to deal with bullying, and teaches you how to deal with, you know, not being invited to this party or that party, or not being able to go out with this girl or that girl. And I remember all of those things very, very clearly. But those things become driving forces, and they just teach you to deal with things, hardships that other people don't really have to deal with. And it almost makes you better later on in life. So my message to people that are going through that kind of thing is tomorrow will be better. It's like, just keep doing, you know, focus on doing the things that you know are good for you and good for people. Don't ever get in the mud with people that like to stoop real low, and focus on yourself. You know, one of the things, Branch Warren was on my podcast one day, and we were talking about business, and I asked him about because he's got the beef jerky company called Wicked Cuts, and it's a saturated market. There's a million different beef jerky companies. And I'm like, Branch, what are you doing? Do you look around at these other companies and see, you know, what's going on and what they're doing? Does it freak you out? And he said, I just stay in my lane. And, you know, he said the same thing about bodybuilding. He said, I never looked at Jay and what Jay was doing. I never looked at Kai and what Kai was doing. He's like, I just stayed in my lane. I did it my way. I do it the best way I knew how. And I got to the top doing it doing it the best, putting my best into everything. And honest to God, ever since I had that podcast, every single time, because with our social media age, we're constantly comparing. I know people say not to compare, but you're constantly comparing. Oh, this guy is doing this new thing. That guy got this new car. This guy bought, or in your case, it might be like somebody got, you know, something you wanted, whatever it may be, but you're constantly comparing. And after I did that podcast, it's really interesting. Every time I start comparing, I kind of pull myself back And I'm like, stay in your own lane. Just stay in your own lane and keep your foot to your pedal down and do the best you can do in your lane, and everything will work out. And that's become like the central theme of my life, is stay in your lane. And if you notice on my Instagram, I have a hashtag, it says walk your own path. And that's exactly what that means. It's walk your own path, not anybody else's path, and do it to the best of your ability. And tomorrow will be better. And that's kind of like the entire platform for the entire campaign for what I think it is for people going through hardships or mental strength issues or mental health issues, and people dealing with bullying and people dealing with any of those things, where it's like, because it's very hard when you're stuck in the moment. You feel like life is falling, is crashing all around you, and nothing will be better, and everything's a mess, and it's very, very hard to have perception and see what's tomorrow and what's down the road. I think if people would just focus on, no matter how old or young, I think if people would just focus on making themselves the best that they can be. And I know that sounds really cheesy. I know it sounds really fluffy and there's no substance to it, but it's really the bottom line. If you just focus on, it's like Jordan Peterson says, if you clean up your own room, which is the metaphor for getting your own life in order. If you can get your own life in order, you're not going to worry about other things in life. You're not going to worry about, you can't point at other people and worry about other things until your own life is in order. And I just think that's the basic point of it, is worry about what you're doing and do it the best you can.
Well, I'm kind of like you. I was, I wasn't like a big muscle guy in school or anything. So I took a lot of like martial arts classes, and but I was also very into comic books. But luckily now comic books are much more popular. It's not like a nerd thing, even though like a nerd is like a nice word now. It wasn't such a nice word when I was growing up. But I think what really helped me is I always had a goal in mind. And I know like a lot of kids my age, when I was first interested in comic books and maybe as a career, they hadn't quite decided yet. Every kid who ever plays a sport says, I'm going to be, a football star, or I'll play for the NFL, or, that's probably, a little tougher to do than dedicate yourself to something that you can see results in. So my advice would be, find legitimately what you really, really love. And maybe it is football, but just keep at it every day and keep doing that. Keep learning more about it, study it. And always, this is the best advice I ever got, was compare yourself to the best. Even if you're just starting out, go, how would that person approach this same challenge? Whether it's, say, the martial arts, like how would Israel Adesanya, how's he going to beat Paulo Costa? I don't know if you saw that fight, but Paulo Costa is this terrifying guy who's just running through everybody in his division. Looks like a superhero and a monster, and Israel Adesanya is a little bit on the thin side. Like if you see that guy at the beach, you wouldn't be intimidated by him in the least. Whereas you see Paulo, and the guy looks like back off. It's the Incredible Hulk. But that guy had a great game plan. He was a great martial artist. So you might say, how would a guy like that approach this, or how would an artist approach this page if he had this script? How would he show that action? And similar to like, how would a writer, I have this great idea of my favorite writer, Ed Brubaker, how would he tell this story? And then once you do your version of it, see how it stacks up with how you imagine that hero of yours would do it. And you'll be able to see like, oh, well, this would probably be different. And then just keep trying to level up. The good news is there's always going to be somebody better. And most people think that's bad news, but the good news is there's always somebody better doing something a little different. They have a different way to learn, and we're lucky enough we can adopt that and add that. And
I feel like you have to allocate yourself to something, whatever it may be, and just push. Like, and a lot of people will tell you that you're doing the wrong. A lot of people say you're wasting your energy and you're wasting your time. But to get to a level of making change or being the person that you wish to be, it takes just doing it despite lack of belief from other people. And like, I don't know what you ultimately want to do, but I know that what I chose in the beginning, no one is going to understand. I knew that it would take a very long time, if ever, for people to realize that it's going to work. You just need self-belief, because I think if you have self-belief and you choose a path, like whatever it may be, you're going to fall down so many times along the way. But if you're not someone that quits, then there will be that one occasion where you don't fall down, and it changes everything from that moment forward. So I don't know. It's like, don't spread yourself too thin. Try to be focused on something at least. Try and give yourself at least a focus that you wish to pursue. It will change. Like, mine changed from boxing to gym, and then gym changed from gym to bodybuilding. But unless you initiate that focus and that attention to something, you're not going to know what you want to be. So be willing to follow a path, and be happy that it will change along the way. But just keep going. Everything will make sense in the end. Everything will make sense in the end. Just don't procrastinate. Don't sit still. That's all I would say. Just don't sit still and expect it to come to you, because nothing comes to anyone. You're doing this podcast off your own whim. You're using your own energy, and that's going to create opportunity, and that's the right thing to be doing.
There was a study done that I read a while back, and a lady was taking, I don't want to say notes or statistics, but she was doing I hate it because it's very morbid to say, but she was she was a nurse, and she was asking people that were dying on their deathbed, what was their biggest regret? And she asked, like, I don't know how many thousands of people this question over how many years, but the number one answer that everybody said, or that majority of people said that they regretted in life, was living their life for somebody else. So what I tell people is that you never ever listen, I have amazing parents, and yes, when I'm younger and I'm coming up, you live by your parents' rules under their house, but I don't live my life for my parents. I don't live my life for my brother, my sister. I don't live my life for anybody else but myself. Now, I live my life, and I try to take care of my parents and, do everything for my family and do right by everybody. But I never did things in my life just because my dad wanted me to do them, or like my dad and my brother are big hunters. My dad's passion is hunting, and he loves it. Hunting and fishing, he would do it every day, 24 hours a day if he could. I like it and I enjoy it, but it's not something that I'm as passionate about as my father. As much as he wanted me to be as passionate about it as he is, my love was elsewhere. And yeah, there are times still where like he wants to do things and go hunting, and I just can't, or I don't have the time for it. And a lot of times now that I'm older and my bodybuilding career is coming to an end, I make that time to do that stuff. But you can't live your life in somebody else's shadow or in somebody else's vision, because you're going to end up wasting so much time trying to figure out what it is you want to do in life and who you are. Where if you know that this is who you are and this is what you believe and you're willing to die for that, then go after your goals. That's something that I hold true to. Like, the type of person that I am, like, I was bullied growing up. I didn't always have a lot of friends. I wasn't always good at what I did. I wasn't always good at every sport I played, but I was always true. I was like, this is who I am. This is what I believe. And you could either like it, you could hate it, but I'm willing to die for my belief and who I am. And I'm not going to change that for anybody. So this is the path that I'm choosing. You could either come along for the ride or get the hell out of my way, because nobody's going to stop me from doing what I want to do. And that's what I tell people. Don't live your life for anybody else. Don't. Because it's at the end of the day, you're living your life for somebody else. You're going to get left behind. And it's going to be a sad life. Listen, do I have a great life in some aspects? Yes. In some aspects, my life sucks. I come home every night to, my dogs. I don't have anybody here. I don't have any kids. I don't have a girlfriend. I don't have a wife. I don't have a fiance. There are aspects of everybody's life that is never going to be 100%. And the great thing about life is that we all go through trials and tribulations in different ways. And you, me, your dad, your mom, whoever it is, we've all had our own adversity, and all those negative things have made us who we are today. So just because, you know, you sat by yourself at school and you, whatever, you're bullied or whatever, who would have thought a kid that sat by himself in school and was bullied would be having a podcast talking to all these bodybuilding guys? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, out of everybody in your school, you probably talk to more celebrities or bodybuilding than anybody.
Yeah.
So maybe you know, it's fair to say, if you didn't get bullied or if you didn't sit by yourself, maybe this wouldn't be happening right now. Maybe you would have went in a different direction if you had all those friends and you were out maybe hanging out with them and playing video games and, you know, not really worrying about bodybuilding. Or that maybe you sitting by yourself is the reason why you have this podcast. You know, so like when everybody says, you know, every single negative thing, you got to take something positive out of it. Like, I wouldn't be where I am if I didn't go through all the shit that I went through in my life either, you know? And if you, one thing you don't want to live with is regret, because living with regret is the worst damn thing you can live with, because you can't get rid of it, you can't fix it.
You have to be committed. Everything is commitment. No matter what you do in life, you want for it to succeed to the level you know, that some people see themselves at. Like if you're inspired by Michael Jordan or Tiger Woods or a comic artist you're a fan of or whatever, what got them there was their commitment and not spreading themselves out where they can't focus on, you know. I kind of went through that. I touched on that earlier, where I had so many different interests, and, you know, my art suffered because of it. But if you look at a guy like, let's say, Alex Ross, all he did since he was little was paint. And look at him now. Everything is commitment. Once you commit to everything and you give 100%, but it takes love to do it, then you'll succeed. That's what'll get you there. If you don't commit to it, if you go, I'm not going to do it today, that's one step further back you are. You know, you have to go full steam ahead. But yeah, so that's what advice I would give: commit to the craft and take criticism well. It's not, criticism sounds like a horrible word, you know, like it sounds like a biting, pointed word. It's not. It should be a positive word. Criticism should be a positive. I would say feedback, or, you know, take that well and try to embrace it. Don't reject it.
You just got to go do it, honestly. Like I said earlier, if I let every negative comment that I get affect what I do, I wouldn't be in the position that I am right now. Because I get so much negativity, it's ridiculous. Like I get comments that I should be dead at 30. I'm not going to make it past 28. You know, you're this, you're that. And God, man, like that's harsh of the harsh. You know, when you're pretty much saying someone's going to die. Like that's, you know. Yeah, that's... But I, again, like I said, these people don't know me. They don't have any relevance in my life. So why would I let any of that affect me, right? No matter what you do in life, no matter how good you become at something, you are gonna get negativity no matter what. You could literally be the perfect person in the world. Somebody will find something to tear you apart, no matter what. You just gotta ignore it, man. Like, I could say, you know, engage a little bit if you want, but at the end of the day, if you let them get to you or you respond to them, you're just giving them what they want. Yeah. You're giving them that satisfaction of letting them know they got to you. Yeah. Don't do that. I always ignored it, except recently, as you know, I engage a little bit, but I went through my entire career reading all this. I just kept my head down and went to work. Never let anything bother me. And look where I ended up in a good spot.
I would say that you have to stay focused on the fact that none of what you're going through right now actually matters. And what I mean, sitting alone at lunch and all that stuff, it's no reflection to you as a person. It's the crazy teenage nonsense that's going on in everybody else's head. And high school, when you look back on high school as an adult, it's crazy how silly it is, all that stuff. And later in life, you're going to become really good friends with some of the people that wouldn't talk to you, and you're going to not talk to some of the people that did talk to you, and you're going to have people apologize to you for being a dick. And it's really weird what happens after high school. And you just have to stay focused on the things that make you happy, and friends will find you, and the right people will appreciate what you're doing. And you have a whole world open to you with your channels and with what you're doing, and you're bigger than your high school. And there's going to be people that are jealous about that. You know, how come this guy's got this attention and I don't? And it's going to be kind of weird. It's a weird place for everybody. And I'm very fortunate I had a good high school experience, but I appreciate people who didn't. And just stick it out, because you're going to look back on it and laugh. It's not even going to matter.
It's funny that you say that, because I just had my first ever troll in my Chris Bumstead interview.
Nice.
The guy commented on the video. He says, what's the deal with this kid? How does he interview these people? Is he a Make-A-Wish kid?
You know what's great about that, though? I mean, truthfully, and I'm sure you've spent enough time watching all of our stuff. Like, that is perfect, because that's an example that shows you what's going on in his life, not in yours. Negativity
it's all a reflection
from other people. We get it all the time. Sometimes I'll take the time, and I like to say I like to play with the trolls when I'm bored. But at the end of the day, I don't actually think about them. And it should be the same thing with your school life and everything else.
Yeah.
It's tricky, because when you get to somewhere like where we are, it becomes very, very cool to be an individual and do whatever the hell you want. The key is do it now. Like, you should do what makes you happy all the time, and the things that are, as long as it's not hurting anybody else, because that is your path and it'll lead you where you're supposed to be. You know, it's funny, but I remember when I was a kid, people would say, oh, you can't be wasting time on those stupid video games. It's never going to go anywhere. Or I know, like, Tony Hawk's a prime example. He's obviously well before you, but you know who he is. His teachers used to tell him, listen, you're going to be a loser your entire life. You got to stop wasting your time with his skateboarding and get focused. And meanwhile, he was making more money than his teachers then. He's like, okay. And same thing. I mean, some of the biggest people you would know, I don't know if you know who he is, but you should follow him for sure, is like Gary Vaynerchuk.
Yeah.
That's a prime example of a guy who was literally called a loser by his friend's parents because he didn't fit the mold of what you were supposed to do. Yeah. You know, and I saw a thing by him. It was so funny because they would hammer away on him like, oh, you're never going to be anything. You're a loser. And I remember one interview, I loved it. And some people see it as arrogant, but I loved it. He goes, I make more than my entire graduating class does. All of them combined.
Put together times 10.
So it's like, that's how you want to look at stuff though, is remember how many people have been in your shoes. And on the other foot, those who are the coolest, greatest thing right now, who knows? The bottom line is you worry about staying in your lane, and same with all kids and even adults. Like, do your thing and don't let anybody else affect you. Because I mean, hell, I know definitely for me, I can't speak for Ron, but I would have quit bodybuilding as soon as I started if I listened to what people told me. I had people literally laugh when I told them, oh, I'm going to make a career out of this. But I did have a few of them that are now literally friends of mine. I was an adult. I was in my 20s. Come back to me when I made it, and they're like, man, I have to tell you, I thought you were a joke when you were going for this, and now I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah. I had someone that I've known for a long time say to me a little while ago, they're like, I always thought that you were going to regret all of this. And they were like, but like, fuck, your gym looks awesome. And it looks like you're having a great time and everything looks like it's going well. And, it's just funny what other people think. It just doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
And you just keep doing what you're doing. And if you think of something and you think it's going to be fun, do it. I think I'm going to do what if I did a show on this? Just do it. Like,
when you get older, man, no one will remember, and I can say this from experience.
Yeah.
I have to tell people about failures.
Yeah.
Like I've had
people
so
give
many
me credit
people
for
say,
stuff I didn't
"Oh,
do."
yeah," or I've had people say, "Oh man, everything you've ever done is huge." I'm like, "Oh, I lost $200,000 one year." They're
Yeah.
like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, I missed. I had a really bad business decision that cost me more than most people make and almost bankrupted me at one point in my life." It's like people don't even remember that stuff in hindsight. So
No.
trust me, in a few years, when whatever it is you're doing, it might be this, it might be something else, but none of this matters. I highly doubt that Elon Musk was the popular kid. I can promise you that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think he's doing okay now.
I think the biggest thing is, yeah, and it's all one of those things that, like, when you're young, it feels like that is like the reality, you know, like the world you're living in now is like your eternal reality, when it's like this, you know, like the world you're living in now. And like, man, I can tell you the amount of kids I went to school with that were like the most popular kids in school, and the kids that, like, you know, were the best on the sports teams, or, you know, had the most friends, and they're the guys that are like working at like Walmart now, you know. And like some of the kids I knew that were just like, you know, minding their own business, sticking to their grind, you know, doing what they were passionate about, you know, are the ones that end up being, you know, the ones that are having the last laugh at the end of the day, right? So I think at the end of the day, I mean, you have to realize that the world you're living in now isn't the forever world, you know. And like, obviously I know it can be tough, you know, when you're living in that and that's your reality at the time. And, you know, if people are picking on you, or if you know, you go to school and you're not necessarily having as many friends as the next kid. But, you know, this world of like school and high school, it's so small in like the world of that you're going to live in. You know, I think you just need to look at, you know, like we talked earlier about staying true to yourself. And, you know, I think if you try and conform to who other people are just to get more friends, it's not going to make you happier in any way. I think by being, you know, authentic to yourself is really the best answer. And then I think the people that are true to themselves and stick, you know, keep their nose to the grindstone and stay doing what they love are the people that ultimately end up, you know, having, you know, the most success and the most, you know, enjoyable lives, right?
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that. When you get older and you look back at those
It
years,
seems so
they
inconsequential.
don't mean anything.
Yeah.
And the thing is, when this isn't everyone, obviously, I can't do a blanket statement. For a lot of popular kids, the reason they're popular is because they're being fake and they're just trying to please everyone around them. And long term, if that's what you've built that makes you happy and that's what brings you like fulfillment and whatnot, it doesn't last. It makes you feel way worse later on in your life. You start to feel awful about yourself and horrible, versus the people like you were saying who stick to who they believe they are and their passion that they have and their own grind and everything. That's what they learn to the kid, and they keep doing that in their older years, and they're way ahead of the people who haven't learned that. So that's the most important thing.
One thing I would like to say is if you're listening to this and you see kids sat on their own at the lunch table, go and sit and say hello to those kids. Just go and sit with them. You might make a new friend, or you just might make somebody else's day that little bit brighter. Either way, you're not doing anything negative by going and sitting somebody who's sitting on their own. So that's one thing I'd say if you do see that. But for the kid who's sat on his own, I would say, you know, don't worry too much about it. We all go through those points in life. Like I've been there a little bit, you know, where you were a bit outcast. Maybe you changed schools. Maybe you did something dumb that made you fall out with the cool kid, and now everyone's kind of rebelling against you. I think what you need to do is, whatever it is you enjoy, look at what's going on around you that involves what you enjoy, whether that be like comic books, whether it's gaming, whether it's sports. Try and find something like a club or a team or anything like that you can join that's going to help you meet new people, help you socialize, maybe bring you out your shell a little bit, because you're going to an environment that you feel a little bit confident that you have some knowledge in. And just understand, you know, we're all a bit different, and especially through younger years, we all go through points of finding ourselves, and there's ups and there's downs. And especially when you're younger, smaller problems can seem huge at the time. And it's just because they're a new experience for you, which is why they seem so big. But you'll then encounter through life similar problems all the way through, and you learn to deal with them, and you learn to get around them and move forward and move through them. And it is a lot of life lessons. But also, if you're feeling really alone, you are really neglected, speak to somebody, reach out, speak to a teacher, speak to your parents, speak to your siblings, speak to someone. Don't just sit there on your own and stay on your own and think that it's something wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. It's just the environment you're in, and there's always ways of changing that environment. So that would be the biggest thing I'd say.
I think you're already a great example of it, man. Like, you're already doing so much. Like, I have like adults, man, that hit me up all the time asking me for handouts and to do stuff, and they've literally put in no work and no effort. And I'm like, and I actually mentioned to you a few times. I'm like, if I have two people coming to me and one has literally done nothing and they're asking me to shout out their page or something, and then I have another person like you who's actually put in work, who has created I don't know what you call it, a podcast or a podcast, then I'm gonna go with the person that's actually trying to do something, that's already putting in effort, man. I think you don't have to have the perfect idea or the perfect plan to get started, but as long as you're getting started and putting effort into something, then you're on the right path, you know. And you know, you're lucky enough that it's already paying off very early, but you know, some people it takes a lot longer, you know. And that's fine, you know. Be prepared to wait a while, you know. Another guy like Gary Vee, everyone knows Gary Vee. It took him a long time to actually blow up. You know, he was putting out videos for a long time, you know, until he was really popped up. So I would just say, you know, whatever you want to do in life, go ahead and get started. You know, it doesn't have to be perfect. Just put your first foot forward and, you know, it'll pay off eventually.
Be yourself. I know it's cliche. I know it could be stupid, and however people want to look at it. If you just be yourself and continue to grow as a person and do everything that makes you feel alive from a positive perspective, you'll go on to do great things. You know, I can speak because I had my balls busted when I was younger as well. I did feel super insecure about myself. I still have those moments personally, still at this age. I don't know why. Just be yourself. I'm never going to hide who I am. People can judge me for being a foul-mouthed, short, 5'6", big-nosed, troll-looking person. They do it online all the time. I don't care. They're going to judge me no matter what I do, no matter what I say. So I'm just myself. I wear my emotions on my sleeve. I'm a super personable guy. I love seeing people out in public. I love hanging out, getting to know new people. I'm goofy at times. I'm a dad, so I do dad corny dumb shit, and people online are like, man, that was so dad, you're so out of touch with trends today. And I'm like, I don't care. I'm having fun. So for everybody that, like you were saying, that is insecure about things or that feel like an outcast, you're young. Be yourself. Double down on your strengths. Don't be afraid to try new things, and don't be afraid to be yourself. Because if you aren't yourself, you're killing something inside of you that shouldn't be killed. It's unique. It's special. You're 15 years old, you're 13, you're 16, you're 18, you're 22. Be yourself and continue to grow. You're going to find out that there's going to be other people in life that do and like and some of the same things that you do. You just haven't met them yet. I didn't know many people that were into bodybuilding in high school. Yet now I'm the centerpiece of a massive community that is some of the most motivational, intense people I've ever met in my life. So for anybody at a young age that's feeling insecure, like an outcast, sure, let's say that you are. You are an outcast. There's nothing wrong with that. You are different. There's nothing wrong with that. Be yourself and dream big. You know, who cares what anybody says about you? Do the work. You know, the work is the thing that everybody runs away from because it's hard. But if you just do it, just keep your head down, do the work, you'll go on to do incredible things. I'm living proof of it, legitimately. And that's enough for me to tell people that
Don't ever stop being yourself, because I stopped being this guy before, and it's not cool. It wasn't good for me. It wasn't good for my family. It wasn't good for my people. And even though there's a lot of people that say things about me today, even though I'm foul mouthed, I say some dumb stuff here and there, it's who I am. It's the environment that I grew up in. And whenever it comes to my people, I will make sure that I do as much good as I can as this person. And that's how everybody watching, that's how everybody should feel. Be yourself. Don't not.